What's up guys, today we're going to be doing a review on the Spartus Apollo, and this might be one of the best deals in pickleball right now. It's a standard shaped Kevlar paddle that after discount code PB Studio, you can buy for $117. In a day and age where paddles are getting more and more expensive, it's always refreshing to find these types of gems on the market. So with that being said, let's get right into it. And also I will have the specs on screen, so if you're looking for any of that information, just check your screen right now. All right, so we're wrapping up one of the first days of hitting with the Apollo, and today mostly focused on some hands, drops, and mid-court resets. One thing I did notice is that it wasn't vibrating as bad as I talked about on the podcast recently. We have two units. One is an earlier unit and one is a later unit, so I don't know if it's related to that or I've just adjusted to it. It definitely vibrates more than, say, a Volair Forza Mach 2, but I really didn't find it that bad today. And one of these next days, I think we're gonna try putting on lead and see how much that helps, because I think that will help quite a bit. But the first thing I'm noticing is at the net, hands feel really good with it. The extra pop that you get from this compared to most standard shape paddles, I think is really nice. You just get that little extra punch that I think gets you ahead more than a lot of the other ones. Drop. All right, so now we just finished up some dinking, specifically backhand dinks. And honestly, so I'm not a huge fan of the handle length. I can put two hands on it, but I'd prefer a little bit longer, kind of like my Forza Mach 2. But what I will say is this thing grabs the ball really well, because those were some of the best two-handed backhand dinks I feel like I've hit, where placement, they went where I wanted. They were shallow enough in the kitchen because of the bite on the ball. Like, I don't know, I really liked that about this paddle, and it's probably not a shot that I was really thinking was gonna be that much better, but there's a noticeable difference, and who knows, maybe I'm just having a really good day. But those were some really nice two-handed backhand dinks, and it's something that is definitely standing out to me today about this paddle. My reset lessons are open anytime. Okay, so because the Spartus Apollo has such a high twist weight number, I wanted to take a minute to just talk about twist weight. I think this is a number that has become more important in the eye of the public than it necessarily needs to be. So twist weight is this number that is to help approximate how good or bad a sweet spot is going to be, but it's not a perfect correlation. Basically, what twist weight is supposed to represent is when you hit a ball at the edge of your paddle, how much is that paddle going to twist in your hand? The higher the number, the more it will resist twisting. The lower the number, the more likely the paddle is to twist in your hand. For your own reference, anything below 5.5 would be considered a very poor twist weight score, and anything I would say above 6.8 is going to be really good. The Spartus Apollo has a twist weight of about 7.4. So on paper, you would probably think, wow, this has one of the best sweet spots in pickleball. And that's not exactly true. The Spartus Apollo has a very good sweet spot, but there are other paddles on the market that I think have better sweet spots. While the Spartus Apollo might not twist much in your hand, when you do hit near those edges, there's quite a bit of vibration and gives you this feedback that really lets you know you hit the ball poorly. Whereas something like the Volair Forza Mach 2 doesn't have as high of a twist weight number, but I don't feel that jarring vibration near the edges, and it just feels a little bit cleaner when I hit in those areas. So for me personally, I would say that the Volair Forza Mach 2 has a better sweet spot, even though the twist weight isn't as high. So I just say all of this because I don't want people to put too much emphasis on the twist weight number. It can be used as a general guide to help you distinguish between a really bad feeling sweet spot paddle, anything below 5.5, and something that's probably good, which would be above like 6.5. But just know if something has a low number, it doesn't automatically mean bad, and just because something has a high number doesn't automatically mean good. Just use it as a tool to ballpark it for you, but don't depend on it. Got it. Go. Go. No! I'm trash. All right, so I've had a few more days with the paddle now, and I wanted to talk about something really interesting that people mentioned in my Discord, and that's this little rubber band that sits at the top of the grip. So I've already mentioned several times that the Apollo doesn't have the most pleasant feel at the edges. It actually vibrates quite a bit. And basically, people found out that if you remove this band, it vibrates less. And I thought this was completely crazy until I did mess with this. The band that the Apollo comes with is actually quite a bit stiffer than a normal one. And basically, their thought was that when it's too high up on the grip and there's a gap in the band and the paddle, it kind of vibrates like a guitar string and gives a unpleasant feel. I took it off and it did make a bit of a difference. We had 2 Apollos and I hit one without the band and one with the band, and it did feel like there was a difference between them. Now, can you expect a completely world-shattering difference? No, probably not, but if you're worried about it, you might as well just take this off because this isn't adding anything to the paddle anyways. Now, what I will say in terms of vibration is this is an Apollo that I have completely set up. This is a Hesicore, an overgrip, and then I also added tungsten tape from the side of the paddle down through the throat. And this has made a very big difference for the vibrations overall. In fact, it's to the point now where I'm really not even thinking about it. Now, for any of you paddle junkies out there, the twist weight setup on this did become pretty ridiculous. It's at about 8.63 now, and the swing weight only went up to 111, which is still more than fast enough in the hand. In fact, I'm actually considering adding some lead tape at the head of this just to give a little bit more plow through in that upper area of the paddle, since I still have margin to work with on the swing weight. So might give that a shot. Would also give it a bit more power on drive, so we'll see. But this setup works pretty well, and the vibrations aren't bothering me as much anymore.
5, 2.
All right, so we got another day of testing in, and today it was a little bit more of a comparison to the J3K, which I personally think is the biggest direct competitor to the Apollo. They are both Kevlar, they both have similar feels. Particularly this one was actually interesting to hit again against this with all the lead, because this one has some of those vibrations I was talking about that this no longer really has. So originally when I first played these stock, I liked this more. I like this more now with the setup. And I think with them occupying a similar space and this being 117 after a code and this is like 140-ish, this is clearly a better value. Now the one big difference that might make you pick one over the other is the handle length. So if I put these up here, maybe around here, the way this tapers, you definitely get 2 hands on this more comfortably. Not by a long shot, but just enough. I can still do it on this, but it's just a little tight right here. So I think what these things have in common is they both have very good pop. The pop is pretty aggressive for a standard shape paddle. It's not on the same level as Anna Lee 12.7 millimeter. That's in a whole league of its own for a standard shape paddle. But these are pretty similar overall. So I think if you're gonna pick value-wise this, if you need the long handle, this, I do think this has a little bit more pop and power overall. One last thing, I did end up putting tungsten tape at the head of the paddle just because I could, basically. I wanted to sweeten up this higher area and make it plow through the ball a little better, and it did exactly that. My drives feel very heavy for a standard shape paddle. The whole face just feels cleaner. Swing weight's about 116 now, which is high for a standard shape paddle, but honestly, it's still fast enough. That's like around the swing weight of like a double black diamond, and everyone calls that a fast paddle to swing, so no issues with this. So if you're looking for a nice lead setup, I dig this. Okay, so let's wrap this review up. Honestly, I'm very impressed with the Spartus Apollo. At $117, this is extremely aggressively priced, and there are plenty of companies in the market that would try and sell this same exact paddle for $200+. So the fact that you can buy this at the price that you can is pretty unbelievable. Not only is it good at that price, it's just a good paddle, period. Now I'm gonna quickly compare to the Velair Forza Mach 2 16mm, since I know a lot of people are familiar with that paddle and they kind of occupy a similar space. The Forza is much more control oriented. It's amazing for blocks, resets, dinks, anything related to control, it's extremely good at. While it doesn't completely lack pop and power, it's definitely on the control spectrum of paddles. Meanwhile, the Apollo is in the all-court category, feels very stiff, and definitely has more aggressive pop for a standard shape paddle. So if you're looking for more offense, then you're gonna choose the Apollo. But if you're looking for better control, you're gonna choose the Forza Mach 2. The Forza feels more plush and muted, while the Apollo in its stock form is more stiff and has more vibrations. Again, if you use a similar setup as what I did, most of those vibrations should go away, but it's still going to be a bit more than the Forza has. So who is this paddle for? I think it's for people who like stiff paddles, they want a low swing weight, someone who wants a more aggressive play style with a standard shape paddle without going into that power category of paddles. And then finally, I also think it's for people who like customizing their paddles. Again, the Apollo is by no means a bad paddle in its stock form. I think it's very playable, it's still good, but I think you get the absolute most out of this paddle when you add some lead tape to it. So if you are someone who doesn't mind customizing paddles, then you'll have no problem with this. But if you're someone who doesn't like adding lead tape, then this might not be the most ideal option for you because it does need that lead tape to get to its full potential, in my opinion. So to conclude everything, this is a fantastic paddle at a great price, and I think if you're in the market for a standard shaped paddle, this is one that's going to be very hard to ignore. But with all that being said, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll catch you in the next one.